There was no Christmas kumbaya on the political campaign trail this week. Trump ratcheted up his immigration rhetoric, and the Biden campaign compared Trump to Hitler. So let's get analysis from two Washington insiders, Democratic strategist Antjuan Seawright, who's back and forth between DCA and South Carolina, and Republican strategist Garrett Ventry, who's back and forth between Reagan and Mar-a-Lago. Garrett, Michigan Trump tapes, I want to start there. Does this hurt him with moderates?
I don't think it does here. Again, he's clarified the comments here since on Hugh Hewitt, if that's what you're talking about. But I think you have to take a step back here. What moderates, what independents, the two main issues that they're facing right now are inflation, economy, and the border. Those are the big issues, and Joe Biden just has not performed well on that when you look at the polling right now. Now, he's got a year to try and change that, but the last 2 or 3 here have not been that good for him here. So, again, I think those are the issues that voters are focused on. I think those are the issues that President Trump is strong on, and we'll see how it all plays out over the next year.
Antjuan, is the left comparing Trump to Hitler trying to change the subject from the Rashida Tlaib foreign policy wing of the party?
I don't think so. I think what you see from the Democratic ecosystem is the defining of who the Republicans are. And not just former President Trump, but it's Lottie Dottie and everybody in the Republican Party. They have all, I think, indoctrinated themselves in extremism, which is heavily baked into Trumpism, and that's who they are. And so if the leader of their party, who's leading in every poll, if polls are the political GPS here, if he is reading Hitler's speeches, if he's using language that is flirtatious with what Hitler used during his day, then I think we have to tell the American people the truth. And when the choice comes at the ballot box, let the American people decide what they want this country to ultimately end up being.
Antjuan, you just mentioned the polls, Garrett. I want to get some reaction on the polls because the Hill's Decision Desk 2024 showing that Nikki Haley gaining momentum in New Hampshire and surging in second place and within 13 percentage points of Trump. Is Trump world getting nervous about Nikki Haley?
I can't speak to what Trump world may or may not be doing, but here's what I know. In the Democratic preference primary, it's win, place, or show. So second, third, and even fourth place matters in some cases. In the Republican preference primary, it's winner take all. So second place does not mean anything. And if you're talking about, it's one thing to be a close second place, it's another thing to be a 20, 30, 40 point second place.
Garrett,
with all due respect, I think every other candidate has a lot of ground to make up if they want to be the nominee.
Garrett, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that, listen, Nikki Haley has a surge here, but you're talking about a surge for second place here. It's her and Ron fighting it out. The problem is, everyone who's at a moment, whether it's Vivek, whether it's Ron, whether it's Nikki in this kind of second place push here, has not taken any votes away from Donald Trump. You've got to be able to take away from his poll when he's over 50% of the vote in these states, obviously 60, 70% sometimes nationally he's tracking at. But in Iowa particularly, talking about the Fox Business poll that came out, he's got over 50% of the vote there. Now, Haley has a little bit of a surge here, but again, if she doesn't win in New Hampshire, I don't really see a path forward because in South Carolina, I think, she's going to get wiped out there too. Trump's got a massive lead there. So the issue right now, I don't think is worrying about whether or not these candidates here. It's a lot of media speculation just because I think Trump has such a dominant lead right now. So no one's really shown they could take away from his pool of voters. And that's the main issue right now.
Well, Antjuan, let's pivot now to the polls in the general election. Does the Biden campaign need a political reset? I mean, you look at these polls, he's trailing in every battleground. He's trailing nationally.
I don't know what polls that are on the hearts and minds of people, but every poll I've seen has Joe Biden in a very comfortable position. He's leading. And polls are about constituencies in particular. And if you look at the constituencies that make up the coalition that will give anyone 270 electoral votes, I'd much rather be in Joe Biden's position than Donald Trump or Nikki Haley or anyone else. The fact of the matter is we still have time to calcify and come together in the Democratic ecosystem and wrap our arms around our nominee. It's not uncommon to be in this position. But if you look at the economy, which my dear friend Garrett mentioned earlier, if you look at what this president is trying to do as relates to border security, if you look at the fact that inflation has come down lower than it was before the pandemic, the fact is this president on all economic measures, traditional measures, is doing very well. And that's a strong argument to be made in a general election.
Yes or no, one word answer before I let you go. Antjuan, you're first, and then Garrett, reply right away. Yes or no, Ron DeSantis drops out of the race after the Iowa caucus. Antjuan?
Yes.
Garrett?
Before. You should drop out before. Yes,
Wow.
I
all
think
right.
drops
It
out.
was a one-word answer, but, you know.
Yes,
wasn't
there
yes
you
or
go,
no.
yes.
All right. We'll leave it there.